All right, a very warm welcome to the Future of Business Process Orchestration webinar, where we will do a deep dive into several topics, including how to harness agentic workflows for intelligent automation. We have 30 minutes on the clock, and we have a lot of material to cover, so we'll jump straight into the slides. But before that, some quick round of introductions for the speakers today. My name is Amit Bojraj. I lead marketing here at Orkes. We will introduce Orkes much later in the presentation, but I also have my colleague Jeff joining us for the talk. Jeff, can you share a few words?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me, Amit. It's super cool to be here. My name is Jeff Bull. I'm the developer community manager at Orkes. So I interact with our developer community through open source and for the enterprise edition through events and online and all that stuff. It's really, really cool to be here.
Awesome. All right, let's jump into the deck. I'm going to share my screen. Cool. Jeff, can you see the slides?
Looking good.
All right. Okay, so your digital transformation journey needs a conductor, right? Not just more tools. Digital transformation is the backbone of any modern enterprise. Every critical function, from customer onboarding to supply chain management to IT operations, relies on interconnected business processes. Many organizations attempt transformation by adopting cloud technologies, AI, automation tools, but without seamless integration and orchestration between these core applications, your efforts will most likely stall, leaving automation efforts isolated and limiting scalability. So that's where process orchestration comes in, right? So it's like a conductor leading a symphony. An orchestrator ensures every task, manual or automated, works in perfect harmony. It coordinates dependencies, streamlines workflows, and unlocks the full potential of your automation efforts. So what is the role of process orchestration in digital transformation initiatives? There are several of them, right? So we'll go step by step. First, orchestration helps you to streamline workflows across systems. So in most enterprises, data and processes live across a dozen of tools: SaaS apps, APIs, legacy systems. Orchestration connects them into a cohesive, intelligent flow instead of like having siloed tasks that barely talk to each other. Second, it drives efficiency and scales automation. It's not just enough to automate isolated tasks, right? So true transformation happens when you coordinate them end to end so that manual handoffs disappear and throughput increases dramatically. Third, orchestration fosters agility. When your business needs change, whether it's a new compliance rule, a product launch, a market shift, you can adapt your workflows quickly without rebuilding everything from scratch. Fourth, it ensures reliability and scalability. Your workflow should be robust enough to handle spikes in traffic, edge cases, failures, with built-in retries, fallback paths, and alerting. And that's orchestration's kind of superpower. Fifth and most overlooked is observability and governance. You need to know what is happening in real time, and you need control. Orchestration gives you like full visibility into what's working, what's stuck, and how to fix it. And when you're dealing with sensitive processes, governance isn't optional, right? It's essential. So at the end of the day, orchestration is what connects all the moving pieces and delivers real-time value. It's a difference between experimenting with automation and actually transforming your business initiatives. And before I move forward, we have a Q&A section in our in the Zoom webinar interface. So if you have questions along the way, feel free to just jump in, drop in the note, and we will address those questions in the very end of the session. Moving on, what are the challenges facing process orchestration today, right? There are siloed automation tools. Organizations struggle with a mix of like business process management tools, iPaaS, robotic process automation like RPAs, custom scripts, and low-code platforms that lack integration. Reliability concerns, legacy tools that were built for an older era, for in time of monoliths, they cannot have that scale and manage that complexity that comes with today's modern workflows. Scalability limitations, legacy orchestration tools falter under the demands of high-volume distributed workflows. This is the most important one, especially with AI stepping in, the complex human and AI kind of dance or collaboration. So orchestrating tasks between humans, AI agents, and automated systems is challenging without a unified platform. The traditional tools for process orchestration would be more rigid, more rules-based, and they're kind of ill-equipped for the modern event-driven architectures that is prevalent today. And then finally, lack of end-to-end visibility, and then security and compliance risk that comes along with the older solutions. Orchestration is everywhere. When people think about orchestration, I think there is a tendency to pigeonhole yourself into like service orchestration, like APIs and microservices, right? But orchestration is across your organization, whether it's even now with the advent of AI, so AI orchestration, service orchestration, DevOps orchestration with CI/CD pipelines, event orchestration, data and security. So it's like where your core applications are built on, and that's where orchestration comes in. And it is across all industries, whether you are in financial services, media, telecommunications, healthcare, shipping and logistics. Orchestration is at the core of every business function. So a few examples just to kind of make this a bit more real on how things can play through. So with financial services, you can imagine a loan approval workflow, which tends to be manual, can be time consuming, can be error prone, and lacks transparency. The solution is you automate your data collection via APIs, use agentic workflows to assess risk and make initial approval, rejection decisions. You escalate complex scenarios to human underwriters for review and for safety and compliance concerns. And finally, you orchestrate document collection, compliance checks, and notifications. So the outcome is you get faster approvals, reduced errors, and improved customer satisfaction. You can also now extrapolate this to fraud detection. And similarly, you can use agentic workflows, which we'll talk about very soon, to analyze patterns and improve detection over time. Moving on to insurance, kind of in the same theme of financial services, policy underwriting, or claims processing. So anything that's manual or kind of high volume in nature with complex validation rules and complex intricacies between different systems, different like disparate systems across your organization is where process orchestration and automation comes into play. Now, we talked about agentic workflows in the last couple of slides. I think it's a good segue into that particular topic, agentic workflows. AI is kind of driving a profound paradigm shift in how organizations approach decision making and process automation. This evolution kind of mirrors that journey from like manual processes to automated workflows, which was driven by a desire for increased efficiency and accuracy. So enter kind of agentic AI, right? Kind of a transformative approach that enhances automation by incorporating decision-making capabilities. So with agentic AI, you can harness the power of foundational LLM models to navigate complex scenarios that in the previous world required significant human intervention. So they are powerful systems that empower human experts to join the conversation with AI. You can incorporate diverse data sources that enhances decision making by leveraging a wider area of information, leading to improved accuracy and outcomes. And finally, you can facilitate specialized interactions that can interface with external specialized agents such as compliance checkers, ensuring that decisions adhere to regulations. Security, governance, I think it's a whole new topic. We should probably have a webinar on that, like how AI and governance will coexist in the future. But that's definitely something we should be looking out for as you're thinking about your agentic workflow capabilities. So we talk about agentic workflows, but I think there's also a other term, which is AI agent. And I think it's a good slide to kind of ground ourselves on the difference between an AI agent and agentic workflow, right? So an AI agent is typically a standalone entity, like a chatbot or a single LLM instance that can take in a prompt, reason over it, and produce an output, right? It may use tools or call APIs, but it typically operates mostly in isolation. An agentic workflow, on the other hand, orchestrates multiple agents like LLMs, humans, APIs, services into a coordinated process. It's goal-oriented. There's an input, there's a goal, and it runs through planning, tool selection, execution, and monitoring. It maintains memory. It includes feedback loops for self-correction, evaluation, and learning. And finally, the most important thing is it can integrate humans in the loop when there's a need for safety, enhanced regulation or compliance or decision-making capabilities. So think about AI agent has like one actor, and an agentic workflow has the entire play, right? Where you have a director, a cast, supporting tools, and even a critic that can monitor with feedback loops. So scaling agentic workflows. Scaling agentic workflows sounds exciting until you actually try it. As the number of agents grow, so does the complexity. You're suddenly dealing with a tangle of interactions, and debugging will become a nightmare. It's hard to know which agent did what or why something failed. Security becomes a big concern too. These agents often need access to sensitive systems. And then there's observability, right? Without the right metrics and visibility, you're kind of flying blind. And finally, let's not forget governance. So you will need audit trails and controls to stay compliant. So while agentic workflows are powerful, scaling them safely and reliably requires a whole new level of discipline. And that's where workflow engines come into play. So workflow engines. So why workflow engines are great for agentic workflow scenarios. If you think about it, workflow engines were built to solve exactly these kind of problems. And now with AI stepping in, it is the exact engine you will need to make your enterprise an agentic enterprise. So first, they give you task orchestration. So you can assign, manage, and monitor tasks, whether those tasks are handled by a worker, an LLM, a human, or an API. You can handle parallel execution and decision making, right, at scale, enabling you to run multiple agents in parallel, make conditional decisions based on their outputs, and they also give you error handling and recovery. So if an agent fails or returns a poor result, the workflow engine can step in, can retry, escalate, and route to a human as needed. Monitoring and control becomes centralized. So instead of like a distributed chaos kind of a situation, you get a single place to track task status, performance, and resolve issues. And finally, security and compliance, right? So workflow engines can enforce rules, track data flows, and ensure that agent interactions are auditable. So you get the scale without losing control. So my final slide before we hand this over to Jeff is thinking about like how do you scale, right, in practice. Uh, the idea is you have to embrace like decentralized execution with a centralized orchestration engine, right? So let agents operate independently, but keep the overall flow and state in a centralized engine that gives you both flexibility and it gives you control. Next, build a real-time feedback and monitoring loop. So with an LLM, when an LLM produces and responds, have an automatic or a human-led process to review and score it. Like good outputs move forward, poor ones, trigger retries or rewrites. Add human in the loop strategically. I think it's a very critical point. LLMs are powerful, very powerful, but they're not perfect, right? Human oversight is needed. It can catch issues before they escalate, and they just add an additional layer of trust and security. And finally, design for deterministic feedback loops. Like you want LLM outputs to be like repeatable, reliable. That means building systems that can take in feedback, learn from it, and adjust prompts or workflows accordingly. So at the end of the day, I think scaling agentic workflows isn't just about throwing more agents into the system. It's about structuring them in a way that's observable, governable, and adaptable for your enterprise. So with that, I think it's a good segue to talk about Orkes Conductor and how it can change the game for agentic workflows going forward. Jeff,
Yeah,
over to you.
absolutely. Thanks for that introduction, Amit. And on this slide, just for a second or two, if you haven't seen Orkes Conductor, like this is a great time to go to orkes.io and click start for free and try out our developer sandbox. You can get a chance to actually build something out. And I really like the way that you explained that this necessity for orchestrating or bringing together a series of decisions in this workflow is so important, especially when you have agents in the mix, because you do need to be able to, not just for yourself and your business, you need to be able to have confidence that you're bringing these tools in at the right place. You want to give your customers and your clients or your partners confidence that you are also overseeing what's happening. It's not just running wild, which can be a big concern in a lot of industries. Next slide, please. Thank you. So if you're not familiar with Orkes or Orkes Conductor, this is a platform it's a workflow engine. It's a platform that was developed at Netflix. If you're familiar with the Netflix Conductor project, open source project, that's the foundation for everything that we've built out over the past few years. And this concept of a unified application platform that really helps us set the stage for the next level of what has been called automation for so long. It really is giving us an opportunity, and this whole concept of business process management is giving us an opportunity to move beyond, I don't want to say just simple automation, but the idea of automate as much as you can that's repeatable, but go beyond that and use your analogy earlier, Amit, of a conductor orchestrating all these different um, musicians and artists in an orchestra to create this symphony of harmonious music that we all want to hear. This platform gives us the opportunity to really take automation beyond this point to something that is even more critical, and that's really important in the AI centric world that we're in, especially when you introduce agents that have agency and can make their own decisions. We want that to happen. We still want to have a level of control over that and insight into what they're doing. Um, and like I said, it's open source at its core. The Conductor project is out there today. We have a robust community that is actively using the open source environment as they move their way towards more holistic orchestration of their workflows and their application, which ends up leading them to see Orkes Conductor and the value it can bring. And specifically as this sort of unified application platform, and as we think even more about the business process modeling side of an organization, I really enjoy being able to see these conversations blend together where your biz ops folks at your company can look at a visual diagram of how a workflow is supposed to play out, how the application should work, and they have a much more common language to discuss with developers who are building those applications for them. They can see this in the same place, they can talk about it and have a better understanding of what's working, what's not working, where problems are occurring, which has always been a challenge, that communication barrier. I also want to really emphasize here that mission critical workloads, especially at scale for businesses, are a big, big deal. Making sure not only does the underlying infrastructure, but the application you're running and the tasks it will handle on a daily basis, from an e-commerce site that might be highly busy, payment processing for if a coffee barista chain that has lots and lots of payments happening all day long. You need those flows and that application, that platform, to be highly reliable and flexible for whatever amount of scale and bursting occurs on any given basis. Next slide, please. So why Conductor? Why Orkes Conductor? You can see here that we have a number of different logos that these companies we have worked with that trust us and trust Conductor for their underlying infrastructure and how they run their applications. It was developed at Netflix, and one of the key components of building this at Netflix was the ability to scale. If you're going to create in that industry a streaming platform that creates its own content to stream to many, many people, millions of people at any moment, you need something that can scale in ways that you need without worrying constantly about the infrastructure failing or things of that nature. And the flexibility of having this with an open source core, or in the general world, we would call it an open core model, where we have open source here and this move to this enterprise edition as well. It really allows us to give these enterprise grade features to these businesses that need it, the support, the flexibility of new features, security controls like RBAC and others. It allows us to give a lot more flexibility to the large enterprises that really need that type of security, separate from IT security. It's security in the platform they're working with and the support for it and all of that. And I know, Amit, you mentioned earlier about the various industries that we've worked with and we help support in their applications, from finance to e-commerce, insurance, payment systems. I've been talking to a partner of ours that we're working on our own integration there, where we want to discuss the value between a payment systems platform and building your workflows that seamlessly integrate together, and even including in their sort of an agentic piece, they can make decisions about the right place to send payment processing or payments or a human-based task that requires somebody to intervene for pre-known conditions, but allow an agent to handle that. It's really important. And I also really want to call out here that the reliability, the resilience, and the scale of using a platform like this really allows companies that you can see on the screen and in various industries to scale out their business where they need to. As we get more and more global and more businesses have presence in different countries that have their own rules and regulations and cultures, speaking different languages and interacting with businesses in different ways, you need that scalability beyond just infrastructure scalability, the ability to scale into places that you haven't previously done business or serve your product or your content and do it in the way that makes sense there. Next slide, please. So a couple different real world use cases. If we talk about agentic workflows, API management, these scenarios, they're critical for us because we need to make sure that the workflows are executed and, as it mentions here, in a very durable way. So oftentimes a short running, quick workflow is important. We need it. But we also need to know that a workflow that we configure can run for a long time and can wait and be resilient to changes or to delays in responses from a human or from another process in the network or in the application stack. We need that to be a core component of what is built out so that our application continues to run even when we have interruptions, and we will have interruptions. That's how technology works. And as applications are modernized, as they are brought more into, the idea of Web 3.0, more mobile access, more people doing their business, buying, purchasing, making investments, banking, doing their healthcare decisions, all through some mobile device, whatever it happens to be, there needs to be a flexibility both with the services, microservices that you're building out, any agents on the back end that are helping to make dynamic decisions, and API connections to third-party providers or your partners for different types of information. If you've worked with a banking system, or if you've purchased a car, if you've purchased a vehicle maybe from Tesla or from a Rivian or some other company, oftentimes you do that purchase through an app that contacts a third-party service to your bank and transfers money. There's multiple connection points that exist there, and they all need to work in harmony with each other, in sort of a symphony with each other, conducted properly, so that what you end up with is a good customer experience, and you receive the product that you're looking for, and have a good feeling about that business when you move on to your next step. It also really helps when we have this unified platform. It really helps with accelerating the application development process, checking in code at the low levels of like check in code, do QA on it, bug testing, all that type of stuff, but also helps speed things up because now anytime a feature is necessary, you're not looking at some big monolithic application that you have to figure out where to insert into and almost re-architect in a lot of cases. You're able to plug in features and updates where they're necessary at the smallest level to a big level, because your flexibility in adjusting the application stack and how the flows work is much more dynamic than it has ever been in the past. It's more visible, more eyes can look at it quickly, more eyes can help insert and make decisions about it in a much more timely way that works better for your business. Next slide, please. So there's a number of different components here that we could talk about in detail, but rather than going through everything here, I want to call out just a couple of things. I've mentioned durable execution. It's a huge deal when it comes to workflow orchestration, and more importantly, when you're building out your services, these mini services that function as the core components of your entire app. And it's what makes your app so your business app or your customer app so flexible, is that any one piece can break or could have a problem, and the other workflows and everything else will continue to operate the way they need to. So you don't have to really worry so much about these brittle and short-lived workflows. And that really helps take us to the next point of app modernization, where we don't have to rebuild everything. We can orchestrate and extend. We don't have to tear down big chunks of things that have done in the past to replace them with something else or break them apart. Everything is put into these smaller components. So when something is necessary to replace or to update or just evolve to the next step, it's a lot easier to extend those or bring them and make them current without affecting everything else that's happening in our application stack. And which all of that enables you as a business to ship your products faster, but also to deliver new features that customers are asking for, the community is looking to do, or that you just find create safer and smarter and more effective applications. At the end of the day, that really lowers the total cost of ownership for your application and for the platforms you're running. Next slide, please. And then to kind of tie a little bow on this, the whole idea of Gen AI and agentic workflows, I really wanted to call out here that if you want to try out using Orkes Conductor to build an agentic workflow, to incorporate an agent in your workflows, connect to an LLM, and send prompts over and have it send information back to you. All those things are flexible. They're all doable in Conductor. Go to orkes.io. You'll find a button there to start for free, which lets you join our developer playground. It's a developer sandbox, your own namespace that you can build out and try these applications, try these integrations with vector databases and LLMs and sending prompts, building your own agents and having those connected in. You can do all of that. And then also you can really look at the idea of, this building and scaling, observing things with AI agents and building actual agents. And I'll let Amit touch on that a little bit more later on, but we're going to be talking a bit more about something upcoming for Orkes soon that you might have a little bit of early access to. So stay tuned. I'll let Amit touch on that. And on that note, Amit, I will hand it back over to you, I believe. Oh, no, sorry. Never mind. I apologize. There was a couple more slides. I'm sorry. I got so excited about this thing that, or this early access thing that I forgot about these others. I apologize. So agentic workflows. Amit mentioned earlier when he was presenting about the concept of agents needing to be autonomous, and more importantly, they need to have agency. They need to be able to make, within a limited scope, decisions on their own. And so that's where Orkes really steps in. So you can not just build these agents out and connect them into your flow or into your application. You can allow them to have a level of agency and connect to the services that are necessary, making that an operational component of your app. But you can also do it within a set scope. You don't have to let it run free. You set where it works and how it works. But it also allows you to be a little less locked into any particular vendor that's out there. If you want to swap components in and out when necessary, you can do that. Next slide, please. I know I'm getting a little short on time here, so I'll try to get through these for you quickly here, Amit, and for everyone watching. And I know also was mentioned earlier, but I really want to touch on the whole idea of the AI plus human collaboration. It's always been preferable with technology and writing code, writing applications to automate as much as you can, where a human doesn't provide a unique value in doing something. But what I think one of the big positives that have come out of using AI in general, the concept, agents, chat-based bots, all those things, is that there are plenty of places where a human is absolutely critical in the loop to make clear decisions, to guide the direction of an architecture, to include things like checkpoints and approvals or reviews. We want people in the loop because the human brain is uniquely qualified to look at that data and make decisions about it. We don't want that to go to an AI because that's not where it's great. It's really great at having agency still within a limited scope. And Orkes really enables your platform and your agents to think and act, and then also ask a person, prompt a human to look at something and review it before the next step happens. Excellent.
All right. Thank you,
I
Jeff.
believe, Amit, I will hand that back over to you.
Thanks, Jeff.
I think you're muted, Amit.
Am I coming through?
Oh, no, that's me.
Okay,
That's me.
cool.
I
Awesome.
apologize.
Awesome. All right, so last few minutes here, so I'll go a bit faster. At the end of the day, we look at Orkes Conductor as a platform for all teams. But before we go there, a quick kind of comparative landscape. So if you're using like legacy tools like business process modeling and notation tools like Appian or Pega, some of the challenges you will see is, they are static and rigid. They have limited integrations. Traditional BPMN tools will treat AI as a bolt-on feature versus like a native component, so it's difficult to kind of scale. And then finally, when it comes to like handling distributed systems, which is a norm today, modern legacy BPMs tools will probably struggle, right? They'll have synchronization issues, and they will kind of lack that real-time control and monitoring that you need for cloud-based infrastructures. So, and finally, like they lack the flexibility for dynamic event-driven workflows. So what you really need at the end of the day is a unified application platform that empowers every team in the development lifecycle, right? So whether it's developers or engineers are looking for a code first or a visual modeling option for building out your workflows, we give the option to the enterprise. So you can take a code first approach, or you can use our visual workflow builder to build everything end to end and observe everything end to end for your core business applications. Whether it's your ops and SRE teams, again, it's talk about enhanced observability that can resolve, where you can find issues quickly. You can monitor the performance across the application and build reliable systems. For the product and business teams, you can gain insights into workflow performance, identify bottlenecks, and make data-driven decisions for the organizations. So, end of the day, I think what we enable you is to focus on innovation and not infrastructure. When it comes to deployment, you have flexible deployment options, so fully managed Orkes Cloud, or deploy within your own footprint on AWS, Azure, GCP, or private cloud, whichever fits your needs. Effortless scaling, right? So whether it is handling rapid spikes or exponential growth, you can do that without lifting a finger. You can scale like billions of workflows with built-in resilience in Orkes Conductor. And finally, you can keep your workflows fully isolated for maximum security, reliability, and performance. So no shared resource address spaces or noisy neighbors. So with Orkes Conductor, you can stay focused on innovation while we handle scalability, reliability, and security at any enterprise scale. The power of open source, I think it really matters, right? You have reduced vendor lock-in. So by choosing an open source solution, enterprises avoid that vendor lock-in situation. You can switch to a different service provider or even self-host the solution if needed, giving you greater control over your technology stack. Ease of talent acquisition. I mean, Orkes Conductor today is used by around 3,000 companies around the world. So when it comes to like finding talent who have used the solution, it's much more easy to kind of hire and retain employees. A strong security posture. OSS allows for peer reviews and community scrutiny, which can lead to kind of faster identification and resolution of security vulnerabilities. And then finally, it's a proven track record. So if you think about companies like Netflix, Tesla, GE Healthcare, who are using open source Conductor today and Orkes Conductor for their core applications, it's just a testament of like the proven track record that we get, or battle tested solution that we get for your solution. And finally, bring it all together as a summary slide. When I think about Orkes, it comes down to, yes, we power the next generation workflows, but the idea is through a unified integration. Like we bring microservices, API, agentic workflows, and human tasks in like one platform. And that is the reason why we call this a unified application platform, because it's a consolidation layer. It's that unified orchestration layer for your entire enterprise. AI powered is native. That's what we're driving today. And workflow engines are needed to drive that innovation. And then finally, it's built for high volume distributed environments. Okay, and then as a final slide, we have a developer playground, as Jeff mentioned. So if you want to just try Orkes out, just go to orkes.io and sign up for free. And yeah, it's a kind of a free forever kind of a plan. So it's your own sandbox for prototyping and rapid experimentation. We also have a Gartner report that talks about a new category that's brimming in the future called BOAT. It stands for Business Orchestration and Automation Technologies. But the idea here is the same, right? It's a consolidation view of different automation and orchestration technologies, whether that's what they call BPA, RPAs, and low-code platforms. You need an orchestration layer in the end to bring all those technologies together. And then if you want to talk about agentic workflows or our upcoming releases around that topic, please book a demo directly with us, and we'd love to chat and jump on a call with you. Cool. Well, that was our 30 minutes sprint on this topic. So thank you for hanging out for a few more extra minutes. We will probably take a couple of questions, and then we will close the call, because I think we are slightly over time here. Okay, so looking at the questions here, let's see. We have a couple on the docket here. So what type of use cases are best suited for agentic workflows? Yeah, so agentic workflows are ideal for complex, kind of decision-heavy processes, things like customer onboarding, compliance checks, document processing, supply chain orchestration, or like in a multi-step support triaging where humans, AI, and systems need to collaborate in real time. So agentic workflows are really well suited for those scenarios. How do you determine when to use a standalone agent versus an agentic workflow? Great question. Yes. So yeah, so use standalone agents for like narrow one-off tasks, right? But when tasks require multiple steps, interagent communication, feedback loops, or integration with tools and humans, that's when agentic workflow. That's when you need that entire play, not just the actor, but you need the entire play to step in and make the show happen for you.
And Amit, if I could chime in real quick, the question in the, I'm going to just answer this live. The question in the Q&A from Sharad about this distinction between agentic and otherwise. The key difference with an agentic workflow is that you have pre-decided for yourself that an agent is going to be able to make decisions about what to then do next. And that can either be creating its own workflows on your behalf in Conductor to run, or in a more constrained form would be you've created multiple workflows that can handle different scenarios, and the agent that receives a request or receives the initiation of that workflow, whether it's a user action of some kind, can then make a decision of which of those workflows it's then going to trigger to take the next step. It makes the decision on its own, rather than you've simply created one workflow that you said in all these scenarios and then do this, and you've had to manually build it all. The agent then can decide which of those to choose on its own.
Awesome. Awesome. Maybe a couple more here. So how do feedback loops work in agentic workflows? A lot of questions on agentic workflows. Great. So feedback loops allow agents or humans to evaluate the output of other agents and either approve, modify, or retry, right? That's where a workflow engine comes into play, because you need that inherent capability of a workflow engine to do that on your behalf and support the LLM to drive the required output, which basically drives input accuracy and creates a path for like a more deterministic outcome from more probabilistic AI models. Let's see. Okay, last question here, and then we'll close the call. How do you ensure agentic workflows are secure and auditable? Like governance, yeah, I mean, governance is going to be a big topic around agentic workflows. And I think we'll do a separate webinar just on that topic as well going forward. But at the end of the day, you need like a centralized control over permissions, AI access, data flows, and logging, right? Like Orkes, for example, has RBAC, audit trails, and you can do policy enforcement across workflows to ensure like a secure execution model. So that's where you have that centralized versus decentralized structure, which you talked about in the previous slide, when you talked about like scaling agentic workflows. Awesome. Well, thank you again for all the time. Jeff, any last words before we close the call?
No, I think you summed it up. Thanks everyone for being here.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks everyone. And if we have any unanswered questions, we'll get back to your email and we'll take it from there. Awesome. Thanks everyone. Have a nice day. Bye.